previously molten metal here. Just a tiny sample. This is really all we need. I brought along with me at the last minute. I thought, well, I'll throw that in. And by analyzing this, we determined it is not molten aluminum from the plane. Okay. Indeed, it contains a great deal of iron, which is the product of the thermite reaction. Now, thermite can be purchased on eBay, and many people, I show it in my class, physics, and I'll be showing it this fall in my physical science class. It's commonly shown. It's a very brilliant reaction. You get this white flare, this white dust, which is aluminum oxide coming off, and then this yellow hot molten metal, just white yellow hot, flowing out of this reaction. Now this thermite is so hot, this molten iron, especially when you mix sulfur in. Now it's called thermate. So sulfur added to this molten iron, it'll just cut through steel, through structural steel, for example, like a knife through butter. And we also see this yellow hot molten metal with white wispy ash pouring out of the South Tower just minutes before its collapse. And I've shown this video. And it's just amazing. The photographs of that, it's in the NIST report. They say, well, probably molten aluminum from the aircraft. No, sorry, it's not. We did experiments at BYU with molten aluminum. We heated the steel pan up to yellow hot temperature, pour that aluminum out. It looks like silvery aluminum, even though the pan is yellow hot. And there's reasons for that. Aluminum just doesn't emit much of this incandescent glow. It's very low emissivity. Sorry for the technical details, but the point is the experiments show it still looks silvery, and yet out of the World Trade Center it's yellow hot. Okay, so as we looked at this, and the evidence is just piling up, this is it has the characteristics not of molten aluminum and not of molten. It's not just structural steel that somehow melted. No, it's very little chromium. But it does have sulfur and manganese and some other elements that are characteristic, you see. It's like a fingerprint that the criminal left behind. This carries with it evidence. How was this done? What was used? And I should explain real quickly. This particular, people ask me all the time, where'd you get this? Well, there's a woman in Northeast who was involved, went to one of these memorials that was being put together, the 9/11 memorial, structural steel from the World Trade Center. She noticed on it dirt clinging to the structure. This is several years ago, before I joined the game here, so to speak. And she said, well, that dirt is going to be subject to rain. It's just going to be a mess. And so she just cleaned it up. She just cleaned some of that dirt off. It's in the Northeast, and this memorial's going up. She cleaned it up, put it in a bucket. She saved it. Then as soon as my paper appeared, she read my paper. This last November would have been. As she read my paper, I'm calling for an investigation, particularly of this molten metal, and see what's going on. It'll tell us what happened, give us insight into what really happened on 9/11. Well, she immediately sent me this sample. Quite a large sample, actually, but not all of it. She said, I'm keeping some back. And I said, that's good, because we may want to, have another lab check it. Don't send it here. You'll send it to another lab directly at some point, probably. Anyway, in there, I don't think she even noticed, there's this molten metal chunks. See? In with this, just from this memorial to 9/11 and to the families, who I deeply sympathize with those families. So we checked this metal, and that's how we got it. And another sample like it, same characteristics: high in iron, manganese, fluorine. I mean, where do these chemicals come from? And then as I studied about thermite, arson, I'll wrap it up here.
No. I was checking to see if my mic was live, Professor. It's key to state you got it from another site separately.
Yes, we have two separate sites. This other one. Okay, so, but similar process, acquiring this, just private people, and so anyway, the point is, as we analyze this, I get into this question of thermite arson. It turns out that arsonists, These are the bad guys, right? Start fires using thermite. I mean, you can buy this stuff on eBay. It's not like it's a secret or something. And I don't recommend you play with this stuff, by the way. It's very dangerous. Okay, molten yellow hot iron pours out of this. It's highly dangerous, but it will cut through iron. So arsonists use it, and now there's a whole field then of investigation. Investigators know how to look at this metal. And so, but these things are coming together, this chain of evidence. This is not the only thing. This is just one of the things. The collapse of Building 7 is another. Studied that. A great paper by Professor Cutler is in the Journal of 9/11studies.com. You can look that up. His paper on the collapse of Building 7. And so anyway, this chain of events leads me to reluctantly conclude that indeed there does seem to be insider. In other words, not just the hijacked planes, but also others involved setting these thermite cutter charges in the World Trade Center to bring them down. This, again, leads to the conclusion that our Constitution, which is our heritage as Americans, I love my country, I love the Constitution and the people in America. I'm afraid that our Constitution is literally hanging by a thread at this stage. And
Professor, can you specifically, because you've talked about this on my radio show, you've published it, you looked at the thermite, you tested, it's not just thermite, it's the patented thermate.
With the sulfur.
With the sulfur on top of it as an accelerant. Then we expand on that. This is even patented. This is actually used to cut large pillars.
It's true that when you add sulfur to the thermite, it now cuts very quickly through steel. And again, do you remember earlier I spoke of this paper I read? These metallurgists in Massachusetts had looked at World Trade Center 7 steel and some from the towers also. Strange, they said, that high temperature sulfidation. Where does this sulfur come? Where do these high temperatures come from? Well, the answer, you see, we're getting at, it's totally consistent with this thermate.
So specifically, you looked at the science, and only thermite could create these molten pools that a month later were still at many thousands of degrees hotter than jet fuel burns down in the basement collapse area. And then you have the hypothesis thermite could do that. It's a prime suspect. You get samples. It's not just thermite. It's the demolition special design thermate.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
That's accurate. I mean, and it's consistent with these other metallurgists. See, that was in the New York Times as the sulfidation of the steel came out. World Trade Center 7, there's no airplane that hit it. And so how do you explain this? And then the towers too. And the New York Times said this is the greatest mystery uncovered so far. Words to that effect.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jones.